Oil prices fell sharply, and stock markets recovered after U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. and Iran had held very good and productive talks to end the conflict in the Middle East. Following the announcement, the price of Brent crude initially fell 13%, while the FTSE 100 recovered from an earlier drop of more than 2%. Trump stated on social media that he would postpone all military strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for 5 days. On Saturday, he said he would destroy Iranian power plants unless the key shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz was reopened. Iran has previously said it would retaliate by striking key infrastructure in the region. The announcements over the weekend rocked financial markets, fueling fears that the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran will drag on for a long time. Since the war began on February 28, Iran has effectively blocked the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's busiest oil shipping channels. Approximately 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas reserves typically pass through this waterway, and the conflict has led to a sharp rise in global fuel prices. Earlier on Monday, International Energy Agency head Fatih Birol warned that war could lead to the world's worst energy crisis in decades. Birol compared the current energy crisis to those of the 1970s and the consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. As it stands, this crisis is 2 oil crises and 1 gas market collapse, he said, speaking at an event in Australia. On Monday, the price of Brent crude oil reached $113 per barrel at one point, but fell sharply immediately after Trump's latest comments. The price fell to a low of $97.47 per barrel, and then rebounded to $104. Before the conflict, it was around $72. While oil prices were falling, stocks were rising. London's FTSE 100 index initially jumped 0.5%, then fell 0.3% on the day. Germany's DAX index rose 1.5%, and France's CAC index rose 1%. Both indices had previously fallen by around 2%. Asian stock markets, which closed before Trump's latest comments, suffered sharp declines. Japan's Nikkei index closed down 3.5%, and South Korea's Kospi index fell 6.5%. Japan and South Korea have been particularly hard hit by the conflict, as they rely heavily on oil and gas, which typically pass through the strait. The conflict has already disrupted global energy supplies, leading to rising prices and fuel shortages. The sharp rise in oil and gas prices since the conflict began has raised concerns about significantly higher energy bills for the UK population later this year. On Sunday, British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer spoke with Trump, and they discussed the need to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Later on Monday, Sir Keir is scheduled to chair a meeting of the government's Cobra Emergency Committee, which will be attended by Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey. The meeting, which was organized before Trump's latest comments, is expected to focus on energy security and supply chain resilience, as well as the impact of the war on the cost of living. The UK government's borrowing costs have been rising rapidly in recent days, and on Friday, they reached their highest level since the 2008 financial crisis. On Monday, the yield or interest rate on 10-year government borrowing rose to 5.12% at one point, before falling to about 4.88% after Trump's comments.
Subscribe to our news for the latest global updates. Like, share, and stay informed.